Slowly kisses passing by the river.
After receiving Xianxia's order, the stone puppet immediately got up, slapped his chest with his two fists, then rushed to the Great Amplifier Divine Stone, held it up with both hands, and stuffed it into his mouth. In all fairness, the stone puppet's mouth is not big, but the strange thing is that the pot-sized Great Amplifier Divine Stone was swallowed by it so strangely, and Xian, who was on the side, was dumbfounded. An hour later, in High Heaven Palace, Xianxia was sitting cross-legged with joy, and placed a total of 5 materials in front of him. A thunderous tree with full of life, and the green leaves seemed to have thunder arcs beating on them. It is the thunderwood that Xianxia has kept for a long time. This thunder tree was formed by a coincidence by the 10th order monster beast thunder mystical beast flesh and blood essence which condensed to a core. In terms of value, it is much more precious than 10th order monster beast core. Although it has lightning, but its origin is still wood attribute materials. A piece of metal the size of a palm is the profound gold that was bought from the Treasure Assembly Pavilion auction for 70 million saint crystals. The profound gold is fierce, making Xianxia a feeling of thorny pain on his skin. A bottle of milky white liquid, exuding a cold chill, was mysterious cloudy sunflower water that Xianxia had not used before. Seeing the quantity, there were at least a dozen drops. A huge ice jade platform, pure and innocent, looks unremarkable, but if it is swept away with divine consciousness, the cold inside is enough to freeze the divine consciousness, which can be called terrifying. And on the ice jade platform, there is also a piece of flaming red metal the size of a baby's head. When you look at it with the naked eye, you can't see the slightest clue, but the scorching heat inside is shocking. 10,000 years ice jade dusk and sun's true essence. In addition, it's just a small pile of things like gravel. There are hundreds of these things. It looks no different from ordinary gravel, but they are the Great Amplifier Divine Sand that the stone puppet took out of the Great Amplifier Divine Stone. That Great Amplifier Divine Stone actually gave birth to so many Great Amplifier Divine Sand, which not only made Xianxia extremely happy, but even Yang Yan was secretly surprised. She thought it would be good to have 20 or 30 grains, but she didn't expect the final quantity is several times more than what she expected. Gathering together. Even the water attribute has more than one kind of treasure. Each of the materials is inestimable and hard to come across in leisure. At this moment, it was all placed in front of Xianxia. How can he be upset? With them, he can cultivate the 5 elements Indestructible Sword. These kinds of materials, thunder tree and profound gold, are undoubtedly inferior in terms of value, and the most valuable is the sun's true essence that is the size of a baby's head. After all, the sun's true essence is really so superb in the legend. The product after refining the stars. Such a small piece of the sun's true essence burst out, destroying the entire gloomy star is not a problem. Looking at the materials in front of him, Xianxia took a deep breath, calmed down his excitement, frowned slightly, and began to ponder. The 5 elements Indestructible Sword is a special technique for tempering the physical body. A lot of time has passed since it was obtained, and Xianxia has naturally studied it thoroughly. Strictly speaking, this technique is not so profound. On the contrary, it is simple and easy to understand. The only difficult thing is to gather the materials and the process of cultivation. Moreover, the results that can be achieved in the end by using different materials for cultivation are also different. This is where the 5 elements Indestructible Sword is most adaptable. In other words, the higher the material, the better the training effect. He dare not say anything else. The sun's true essence can be regarded as the top material. Mysterious cloudy sunflower water and Great Amplifier Divine Sand are also almost extinct. Even if it is thunder tree and profound gold, it is not inferior, and the grade is definitely not low. The starting point is definitely very high when he used these materials to cultivate himself. He believed that even if the cultivators in other places in the star territory obtain the 5 elements Indestructible Sword, they may not necessarily have their own advantages. Excited, Xianxia began to portray the formation on the spot. If you want to cultivate the Indestructible Five Elements Sword, you must use a special formation method. Regarding this point, the exercise method also explained clearly. How the formation method is created and how to drive it is also described in detail. Although Xianxia is not proficient in a formation, he has been with Yang Yan for so long, and he has learned a little under the influence of ears and eyes, so it is not too difficult for him to portray a formation. Pieces of Saint crystal source were laid out in an orderly manner, and the 5 materials of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth were also listed in the surrounding area according to the requirements. 2 days later, Xianxia looked at the Indestructible Five Elements formation that he had spent so much time laying down with satisfaction, and carefully checked and confirmed that there were no errors before he jumped into the center of the formation and sit down cross-legged. With a touch on the space ring, he took out a few spirit pills and held them on the tip of his tongue. Then his eyes closed tightly, and run the 5 elements Indestructible Sword cultivation technique. Sain Qi suddenly turned around, centering on where Xianxia was sitting. The surrounding ground suddenly flickered, lighting up a series of complicated and mysterious lines, and there were more large or small lines in that line. The runes are looming and seem unpredictable. Om. The trembling sound reverberated, and the Saint crystal source placed in the 5-element array bloomed with dazzling brilliance, and the pure energy contained in it poured out and began to flow along the lines. With the supplement of the energy in the Saint crystal source, the Indestructible Five Elements formation laid by Xianxia instantly opened. An unspeakable feeling permeated the whole body, and the quaint and desolate mood filled the entire high heaven palace. It seemed that at this moment, Xianxia had returned to the ancient era that cannot be traced back. The sound of beating the air sounded, the 5 treasures of heaven and earth, profound gold, thunder tree, mysterious cloudy, sunflower water, sun's true essence, great amplifier divine sand seemed to be blessed by invisible power at this moment, and a series of pure energy extracted from within them converged in the middle under the action of the Indestructible Five Elements formation. Right in the middle is where Xianxia is located. The entire high heaven palace became colorful in an instant. The origin of the cyan thunderwood, the origin of the golden profound gold, the origin of the white mysterious cloudy sunflower water, the origin of the red sun's true essence, the origin of the yellow great amplifier divine sand. All of them came into Xianxia's body as if they were spiritual being. In an instant, Xianxia trembled like sifting chaff, and his closed eyes widened at this moment, and his throat involuntarily let out a muffled roar, like a wounded beast screaming in frenzy. Huge pain, unimaginable pain was transmitted from all parts of the body at this moment, making Xianxia unable to help but give birth to the illusion of being crushed and broken. This kind of pain is far from comparable to being injured after fighting with others. It is a kind deep into the soul. In an instant, Xianxia understood why the cultivation of the Indestructible Five Elements Sword had such demanding requirements for cultivators. If the strength of the physical body is not enough, once the power of these 5 worlds' treasures invades the body, they will burst and die immediately. What kind of cultivation are you talking about cultivating? If the strength of the divine consciousness is not enough, it will not be able to withstand this pain at all, and sooner or later will be maddened by the pain, and eventually become crazy. Xianxia consciously realized that his conditions had met the requirements, but when he started practicing it, he realized that he took it for granted. The perseverance he has always been proud of was simply unbearable in the face of this kind of torture, nearly immediately collapsed. Of course, this was also related to the high-end materials he chose. If they were all replaced with the Thunder Tree grades, it shouldn't be so painful. But this also stimulated Xianxia's nerves. Since he embarked on the road of cultivation, he has been at the critical moment of life and death many times, suffered severe injuries and faced despair, but he has walked step by step. If he fail here, all these years of hard work will be in vain. Not to mention anything else, when he first got the wordless black book in the High Heaven Pavilion, it was by relying on his perseverance that he succeeded in letting himself be recognized as the Lord and unlock it, thus obtaining the unyielding golden body. That unyielding pride was also a mysterious martial skill that was comprehended in a desperate situation. Although it had gradually become useless with his own growth in strength, it was after all a martial skill that he had comprehended from the unyielding golden body. His own martial skills. And the birth of this martial skill also has a great relationship with Su Yan. It was she who used the means to freeze herself for several days before he realized it. All sorts of distracting thoughts flashed in his mind, and Xianxia used the unyielding pride in a ghostly manner. What surprised him was that the pain was weakened a little bit, although it was not worth mentioning, but it did. With a happy movement, Yang immediately evacuated the divine soul spirit body into the consciousness sea, keeping the stability of the consciousness sea, and no longer paying attention to the changes in the outside world in his own body. The popping sound was as dense as the beans. In the high heaven palace, Xianxia's skin cracked inch by inch, and light golden blood leaked from it, which instantly wetted his clothes. Not only the flesh and blood squirmed, the skin burst, and even the meridians could not withstand the destruction of the origins of the 5 elements of world's treasure, and the roots were broken. The powerful recovery ability of the golden blood was vividly manifested at this moment. The cracked skin, broken muscles, and broken meridians were completely repaired in a very short period of time, and immediately cracked and burst again, repeating itself, seeming to never stop. With the passage of time and the continuation of this process, Xianxia's physical body has gradually become stronger to an obvious extent. Not only that, the Sain Qi in his body seems to have become more refined and vigorous, and even the power of divine consciousness has also gained a certain degree of refinement. Although the Indestructible Five Elements Sword is a special technique for tempering the physical body, in the process of cultivation, it will inevitably enhance the Sain Qi in divine consciousness, which is also a side benefit. A terrible low roar came from the high heaven palace. Fortunately, there are layers of restrictions and guarding formation here, and the voice will not leak out, otherwise, it will definitely attract all the people of the high heaven sect. Time passed slowly, and the entire Shadowed Star was intensively preparing to enter the Emperor Garden. 1 piece of Emperor Jade and 1 quota. The major forces did not get many Emperor Jade. It was a difficult choice for them to choose people to enter it. For this reason, many forces have begun to select talents from within, vying for the places to enter the Emperor Garden. The High Heaven sect was also very busy. The High Heaven sect only had 3 Emperor Jade, and there was no need for selection, but a lot of preparation was required. Only Xianxia in the High Heaven Palace had never appeared since that day he entered retreat. To be continued.